Thank you everybody to be here today. I haven't been here for exactly a year. Today I just wanted to talk about biocoal in Quebec because this is maybe a representative of what's going on elsewhere in the world. So Jaco Environment is a 7-year-old company specialized in biochar, biocoal, pyrolysis industry. So that's all we do, and we are 15 around the world. We are in 4 countries, and we have clients in 20 countries to respond to the needs of different projects and different people producing biochar and biocoal. Personally, I've been working for 25 years in the biochar industry. Yes, it existed 25 years ago. So next, please. So the iron ore industry in Quebec, it's very big. It's $3.6 billion. It's close to 2,000 people working in that, and we account for ArcelorMittal, Rio Tinto, Minerai de Fer Québec, Elkem Metal, Champion, etc. There are 22 mines and mining industry in Quebec, though that's a lot of people, a lot of money, and a lot of big holes. And in Canada, we are the 9th producer of iron ore in the world. Next. So that means it's to be taken very seriously, and Jaco and also me as a specialist in the biocoal and biochar industry, I've been supporting this industry for several years already. And what happens, as you all know, is that the coal, less and less countries accept the use of coal. And in Quebec, although Canada is a very big coal producer, in Quebec, that is one of the provinces of Canada, they refuse coal usage, and but it's still used a lot here in Quebec. For the iron ore pelletizing, for the steel industry, as cathode and anodes in those industry, and for extraction and purification of some metals, and on-site industrial decontamination. But the coal, the 2 last one are in activated carbon, but activated carbon coming from the coal industry. So that's different usage, and there are more usage in very specific plants as well. But that's what we think generally when we talk about coal use in the iron ore industry. Next, please. So why would they like to switch? In Europe, some have already started switching, and here in Quebec, they start to switch as well, because there is a law that prohibit the use, in Quebec, there's a law prohibiting the use of coal in 2030 for the large emitters, which include obviously the iron ore industry. And so this is a race against the clock right now, because they still have 6.5 years. So if you take construction design, feedstock, supply, etc., for 6.5 years, and to build up your plants, have sufficient production to respond to your hundreds of thousands tons of year consumption every year, that's a big race. That's a panic. So they are all into it. And also because the carbon penalty is very high, it's a $40 per ton of CO2 equivalent, which for them is several $1 million per year of carbon penalties here in Quebec. So that's a lot. And $40 is $40 is a conservative pricing. And also there's the corporations, oftentimes the head of the corporation have announced big environmental commitment, and so they have to respect that as well. Next, please. So not only do they have the obligation to do so because of the law, but there's also some type of coal some type of anthracite, for example, that they expect shortage around the world. And so there's kind of panic because I'm aware that one of the company 2 years ago was about to close for 2 days because they couldn't find the right anthracite. And that means it's several $1 million they were gonna lose just because they didn't have enough of their specific anthracite. And so they see more and more in the shortage of very specific type of coal. So they want to get, to go around that. And also there's an environmental advantage, which is another cost for them. For example, with the sulfur emission, the ash, and other type of emission that they have to treat within the plant, which is costly, and they don't have this problem with the biocoal. And so next, please. So because of that, what we see is maybe you want to pick one more because I see the title. I don't see the title. So they are seeking solution, and they are very, very serious about it for Elkem, Valley, ArcelorMittal, and Rio Tinto. Big announcement for carbon neutral or carbon reduction, decarbonization. And they have put millions of dollars around the world for this decarbonization. So those are announcements that we can find. Forgive me?
No, so sorry, continue.
Those are announcements we can find in the world, and there are more and more coming from this iron ore industry every day. Next, please. Yeah, so to do good, just click several times until we get the full screen. To do so, they need solution, and some will go with the hydrogen use in big oven. In there are other solutions. Some use pyrolytic oil, like ArcelorMittal in Quebec is using pyrolytic oil to heat their oven. But they also need, when you do iron ore pellets, you still need a solid, not a liquid or not a gas to do it. So part of the coal consumption will be decreased by using other renewable source like hydrogen, like bio oil, renewable oil, those kind of things. But for several usage, you still need a solid solution. So the solution is biocoal. And so to find those solutions, they are very, very, very serious about it. You see that Rio Tinto spent $1 billion to reach zero emission. And those are all facts sheet. It's I didn't find the numbers for 2023, but it's even bigger than that. And $2 billion to cut on carbon emission for Val. And so what we see is that there is a lot of money moving from the coal industry to the biocoal industry. And those are important, particularly in Quebec, because they consume about 3 million tons of coal per year. And so 3 million tons, how do you produce biocoals enough? And how do you have enough biomass to produce enough biocoal to replace all this amount of coal? So next, please. So to answer to that, they did a lot of research. We have been working with ArcelorMittal and Rio Tinto and all those big ones for several years. And we look at, the pros and the cons of changing. And some of the problem that we get with biocoal is either some doesn't contain enough energy, or they have too much volatile. They may have certain minerals when you do the summation together, may provoke undesirable condition within the oven of the steel industry. And it may burn too early during the process of making iron ore pellets, for example. It may absorb too much water, generate dust and fire, and you may have one of the problems that the biochar industry has had for a long time, and some have solved the problem, but most of them still struggle with that, is the quality control. It has to be always the same over and over, so that the big iron ore industry doesn't have to adjust every single time you send your product. Next, please. So there's not much offer in North America. There's a lot more than in Europe or elsewhere in the world, beside China, Eastern Europe. But in North America, that will be about 2 million tons per year of production in the next 3 years. The very most of them will be for biocoal production, for the iron ore and the steel industry. And this will be made from waste biomass, not only wood waste, but also agricultural waste, such as nuts. And however, most of the production are either under construction or they have been announced, so they are not producing yet. And that's make the buyers panicking a little bit that they won't respect the timeline by the Quebec government. Next, please. So why they haven't switched yet? As I said, there's not enough production yet. The quality control was lacking. There is money to buy, and they were expecting lower price, and now they understand now they are at step that they know they will have to pay more. Yet there is not enough financing in the biocoal industry for production per se, because the financiers, they still consider that as a risky business. And so far, all the plants were too small to produce enough. Now the new ones, all those that have been announced, are 20,000 tons or more. Several of them are 50,000 tons of production, and some are even more than that. So the scale will rise, the quality control will rise, and yes, as I said, the pricing was too high, and the people were not ready. But now they are. It's time. Next. Thank you. So there have been some successful trials and testing and development in the iron ore industry in Quebec. Next, please. Elkem, for example, Elkem has almost completed this pilot plant. When I talk about pilot plant, it's a big pilot plant. It's a big commercial pilot plant. They have invested 100 million. There's an M missing here. $1 million so far, and still spending. And they have secured long-term access to high-quality renewable biocarbon. Because they need, actually, it's not a biocoal, it's a biocoke that they need for the pellets. So it's a very special, it's a double cooking as for coke. And they are located in northern part of Quebec, where there is 2 million green ton of biomass that is produced every year in that region. However, quite a few of it is already used. So that will be some competition for the use of this. And they have selected the technology since they have almost completed their construction. And the technology is also from Quebec, is Biocoal, that has 35 years experience in the development of the technology. So they have decided, Elkem decided to make a biocarbon, to make themselves the biocarbon. Doesn't mean that they won't buy from anybody else, but they decided to make sure they will have something on time and at the quality they wanted. They took the problem in their own hand, and they are building now. And it's almost completed, so it goes very well. Next, please. So to get there, it's patience, and a lot of money. So it's about 10 years in the development. We have been working with them for several years already. And the step they have been through, it's a biocoal production. They have worked a lot with technology providers, with research, with development centers, with consultants like us to develop the recipe for biocoal, for pyrolysis technologies. They have looked for suppliers of biocoal, biocarbon, and technologies, and they have done very seriously. It took them several years. So and then they have done a lot of testing, replacement in the lab, which were concurrent, but it was a very long process. And now they have their pilot plant and they can test in situ. And they are really, really happy about their biocarbon pellets, very high quality biocarbon pellets. And this is why they know they can go for bigger plants. And they have done also economic impact, socio-economic impact for Elkem, and socio-economic impact for the local environment, for the local economy. And they consider how they would, and the planning on how they modify the plans, the commercial plans. So a lot have been done, but it took 10 years and it took a lot of millions of dollars. Next, please. They have encountered a lot of difficulties, and they still do. The pilot plant right now, yes, it is at a quite large scale, but upgrading for a full size type of mining industry plant those plants are always super, I would say, so large, gigantic. It's going to be another important step that within 6 years is probably not going to be fully completed, but they are going to that. The feedstock availability in the surrounding is there, but there's a shortage of labor. And so the forest industries have problems. They have problems hiring people to harvest the forests. And so that is a problem. And also there's a competition for the feedstock. So they will have to find elsewhere. Of course, they're all working on all those problems for quite a while already. And so they need other sites of production. They need more supplier. And now they are at building up their teams, building up their knowledge and training the employees. So there's a lot of things to do yet, but we expect them to be quite operation in 2030 when they won't be allowed anymore to use a biocoal, to use coal, sorry. Next, please. We have also worked a lot with ArcelorMittal for several years. ArcelorMittal have put a $7.6 million on one of the projects, and they have put a lot more money on other projects. They have evolved a lot. They have chosen a different business model. They will be buying. They may build themselves or co-invest in industries. But the business model is different. Rather than Elkem doing all by itself, they will have various providers, and they have they still are looking for technologies, and they have done very important testing in situ on their big Port-Cartier facility in Quebec. And they had very good results for the iron ore pellets. So next, please. And for the iron ore pellets, we have worked probably 4 or 5 years to define the properties of the biochar they need. So they know very well their needs. They know very well how to produce this biochar. Now it's a question of who will be producing it for them. Yes, there's a lot of biomass surrounding them that is available as well, but there is competition. They already use bio oil from pyrolysis plants for heating their stove, their oven. So they're already very connected to the pyrolysis industry, but they need more site. They consume too much, and they need a lot of work and a lot of money to adjust their equipment and their sites for storage, for delivery, and for decreasing the risk, the security risk with using and handling biocoal rather than biochar. Next, please. So success is coming. Success has come already in different steps. They will be ready, and they will be using biocoal for the iron ore industry. They are in there, they are all involved, but the two I'm showing to you are that we have been working with them for a while. And Rio Tinto is also pretty much advanced just as well in Quebec. But I just couldn't show everybody. What we have learned is patience, a lot of money. So small companies cannot easily put so much money for so long time to be able to switch. So the smaller company will have to wait that the big companies are well installed to follow their step and their knowledge, because much smaller company cannot put as much money. So one of the things that we learned working with them is that we think out of the box and seek solution for problems that haven't come yet a long time ahead. And so they have to be aware of all the weaknesses they have and be willing to put effort into that way early, even if they are not sure that would be necessary. Next, please. Oh, there's nothing else. I thought that was the last word. Thank you very much, everybody. That's what I wanted to share today. You can ask anything about that. I am allowed. I will answer within what I'm allowed to say within my NDAs. And so it could be properties or whatever. So thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Always interesting what's going on in North America. The sizes are always very different to what we see in Europe. So I wasn't able to follow the chat, but I will follow up now. So Hugh McLaughlin was asking, there's a property called CRI to measure the appropriateness of a carbon source for use as a metal reductant. Can you explain, or do you know what a CRI is?
No, I don't. Maybe you can explain. I don't see them.
Hey, Hugh McLaughlin will explain that CRI is called Carbon Dioxide Reactivity Index, and this is the relative reactivity of the carbon source to CO2 and the tendency to then convert into CO versus going into the metal melt and reducing the oxide to make iron ore. So this has always been the challenge with biochars, is that they are too reactive. They tend to not go into the melt. They're not a coked material, and therefore they get used as a pulverized fuel, but they can't work as well. Now, they're seeing a lot of reporting in your talk about pellets and blending them up. So it sounds like significant progress is being made, although a lot of it sounds like it is internal to the operations because they view it as a proprietary expertise, and that's to be expected.
Yeah, thank you for your explanation. The reactivity is one of the problems. The reactivity is that they burn too early, or the distribution of the heat is too fast rather than being longer like coal. We have worked on that. We kind of know how to improve that. It's not perfect yet. There's still some improvement, but we have reached properties with this reactivity that is really important, because for the iron ore industry, when the green pellet arrive, they call it green when it's uncooked. It's iron mixed with coal and all those kind of things. When it arrive in the oven and it's cooking, if the coal burned too early, the pellets will be cracking or too porous or not enough cook. It happens a whole bunch of different problems. So when you switch from coal to the biocoal burn way too early. And so we needed to work at this reactivity. This is part of the problem, but we could, the way we work with a biocoal producer to improve the quality of this biocoal, we reach almost what they are looking for. We're almost there.
It sounds promising.
Yes.
Almost there. So I was wondering, what were they expecting to pay for replacement, and where are we now, more or less?
The payment.
I mean, obviously it's different for different processes, but just to give an idea, how far are we?
Yes, it's a very good question. Actually, when it's for replacement of anthracite, very specific anthracite can be 600 to 800 USD. So it's easy to pay the same thing for biocoal. For lignite, which is very, very cheap, it's not gonna compete much with that. But what they do to be able to negotiate the price, very interesting for you, Christian. It's they consider the penalty, the carbon penalty plus the price of the carbon plus the transportation. So then we come to a comparative to a price that is acceptable for the industry, but we have to consider the carbon penalty that is much lower, not just the price of the product. Doesn't work.
Okay. So Marshall was asking, I think, rhetorical questions. Is biocoal the feedstock for activated carbon, and is gasification the system of choice for biocoal?
Biocoke or biocoal? Biocoal. Yeah, for biocoal, pyrolysis is still better than gasification most of the time, but it works for gasification may work for some technologies, but the preferred system is usually still a pyrolysis.
So SA was asking, what is the calorific value you have been able to achieve with your biocoal, I guess, and what is the fixed carbon corresponding to the same?
Well, the different producer have reached 30 megajoule per kilo, which is very comparable to anthracite that they are using. And the volatile, it depends how they cook it, but they reach a 5% volatile. So, which is very close to what they need.
So John Hoffmeyer was asking, I think that the low physical strength of biochar is a problem to support the burden in the furnace. Is that correct?
When it's not pelletized, it's crushing quite easily, yes. So we have to change the density.
How large are the pellets that, or is there like a standard size they are aiming for, or is it depending on?
It depends a lot on their high oven and how it comes into it. So far everything have been customized.
Yeah. Yeah, so Constant was asking about can we use any kind of biochar in the industry, or are there specific properties required? So you mentioned that some of them have quite high specifications.
Yes.
Is there anything that really like? Do you think it will go away from wood waste at some point? I mean, outside of Canada, let's say not in Canada, but outside of countries with a lot of wood.
Wood waste is the best solution. Agricultural waste like nuts and those kind of products that really look like hardwood, it's a very good alternative as well. Yes, we will go to agricultural waste, but demolition wood, it's also a solution for getting all the waste that we can. But you know, agriculture like manure and those kind of, it won't work.
And do you have any insights in what the price for wood is currently in Canada? I know in Europe, but it will be different.
Yeah, like I said, it depends on how much penalty they pay for the carbon. So you have to put the price of the coal that you buy, because if it's anthracite and you pay $800 one thing, but if it's the lignite, because anthracite is used for iron ore pellets and different usage in the iron ore industry, and you have the lignite that costs just about nothing, and you have to add the carbon penalty to that. And why I'm not giving a fixed price, because the carbon penalty change every single year and from one province to the other.
No, I meant the actual wood, so the input material. Do you know the wood price per ton? Because
Yes.
I assume...
Yeah, it depends on what waste that you're looking for. Bark is free almost, and wood waste could go to up to 50 USD per ton, and high quality logs maybe $100 per ton.